what's good, Commanders fans? I think everybody had a good weekend because the Cowboys got dusted. They got skunked. I mean, I can't believe how badly they got skunked. Like, that was just hilarious to see them start the game off 27-0, get skunked like that. Jerry Jones slamming his fist, getting upset. Michael Irvin getting upset, yelling, going crazy on the balcony. Of course, Stephen A. Smith joking around. I mean, Dak. I think they got to move on from Dak. Like, if I were to I would fire Mike McCarthy. I would move on from Dak. And I would start fresh. I really would. I'm dead serious. I know they keep winning 12 games every year, but at the same time, it's like you're losing in the first round of the playoffs every single time, or you're losing in the second round every time. You're never winning in the playoffs. So I think it's time to move on from Dak if I were them. But like I said, I don't really care. But that was hilarious just watching them lose 27. Dak throwing the pick, and then Aaron Jones getting a couple touchdowns. Like, it was hilarious. And then Dan Quinn, him as a head coach, I'm definitely pumping the brakes on that. I'm not going to pump the brakes just because of one game, but to get skunked like that on your home field and then all the fans leaving at halftime, Cowboys fans, they're crying in the stadium. Like, it was hilarious. It was hilarious. I was dying laughing. Of course, and then the Eagles getting blown out like that last night. I mean, 32-9. That was, I fell asleep at the end, to be honest with you. But they got skunked. They got dominated. Nick Sirianni, a fan, threw popcorn on him. An Eagles fan in Tampa Bay threw popcorn on Nick Sirianni while he was walking into the tunnel. He's on the hot seat after making the Super Bowl last year. He might get fired. And Jalen Hurts getting yelled at by Dallas Goedert. And Jason Kelsey retiring after the game. I mean, it was that bad to the point where he was like, he's done. He just can't do it anymore. You can tell they don't like each other. They don't like Nick Sirianni. The players are going at it with each other. So Jalen Hurts with one of his bland, generic, philosophical speeches after the game and stuff like that. So you can tell that they're fed up with each other. They're fed up with each other. You can tell just the chemistry wise is not there in Philly anymore, and I love it with a passion. So this is the time for the taking, guys. This is a good opportunity for us to take over and start fresh. We just got to develop our guys and get a quarterback, get an offensive line. There's a lot we got to get into, or get on this roster, but. We got a long way to go, of course. And I want to pump my brakes. Just like Adam Peters, he was cool, calm, and collected during a press conference. Somebody asked him about the quarterback position. He said, "Hey, first we have to evaluate the we have to find a head coach first." Because they asked him about the draft, they asked him about a quarterback. We got to find a head coach first, and we're going to collaborate and evaluate the quarterback position once we figure that out first. So all his answers were certainly calculated. Of course, the reporters, they're doing their job. They're trying to bait him into, say a certain answer or jump the gun. Head coach, he was like, it doesn't really matter. He was like, I'm not going to box in the head coach. I want them, whether they're going to be, I don't want to box it into they have to be offensive minded or defensive minded. I just want them to be a leader. I want them to have leadership. I'm paraphrasing that. But, and then a lot of people, what they said stood out to them is that he called Josh Harris Josh and not Mr. Snyder. And that is a huge step. I do think that they have a good relationship. They look very comfortable next to each other. Of course, it is that honeymoon phase. But with Josh, you just get more of a personable owner, a personable person who is not afraid to speak to the media or speak to fans. And that's just the kind of vibes you get from Josh Harris. Of course, everybody talks about Adam Peters' aura and how cool he looks getting off the plane with his kids and stuff like that. He's just a cool, he has that swagger to him he's a cool guy. He's a smooth guy. Same Josh Harris, he does look a little tired up there and whatnot, but I think he's a personable guy, somebody that is relatable. For sure. People call him awkward. It is what it is, but I think he's a personable guy, somebody that people can relate to. And not many times as a billionaire, you can't really say that. You can't really relate with a lot of billionaires. They're just not personable people. All right. I did like that he's not given a timetable because they're like, they're basically like, how long do you see a rebuild taking? And with Ron Rivera, when he first came out the gate, he said 4 to 5 years. And that kind of, it was, or I think he said like 3 or 4 years, something like that. And it was year 3. He kept putting a timetable on it. He was like, okay, this is the year we're going to move forward and get it done. And it never happened. And Adam Peters is like, hey, I'm not going to put that timetable. Not saying he doesn't want to put that pressure on himself because there's obviously going to be pressure. But he didn't want to put a timetable on there. And, Ron, we can always be like, oh, it doesn't take 3 to 4 or 5 years. When you look at the Texans, 1 year they already made the playoffs. You look at other teams, they already made the playoffs in 1 or 2 years, or they rebuilt their roster and found a quarterback and have built and made the playoffs in a 1 to 2 to 3 year rebuild, where you look at Ron Rivera and just kept taking over 4 years and it never happened. 4 years and it never happened. So I do like that answer by Adam Peters there. The roster talent question, everybody saying he hesitated, that he wanted to say the roster was trash. I don't think he wanted to say that, but he did hesitate on that question about the roster. All right. He said, "I'm all in. We're all in." He said, Peters also said, "We're going to build this team the right way with a clear process and a vision. It's going to remind you guys what this franchise was built upon. Of course, you remember those days back in the late 80s, the early 90s, the Hogs, the Posse, Art Monk, Gary Clark, Ricky Sanders, the Hogs, Joe Theismann, Doug Williams. I mean, I could go on and on and on. Mark Ripien, the Super Bowl teams, Joe Gibbs. And then, of course, thinking about B. Mitch, he was going back and forth with Jay Gruden. I'm not going to talk too much about that. RG3 on Twitter last night, going back and forth, all those guys. Just ridiculous. But back to Adam Peters. He said, this is where I'm supposed to be, the general manager of the Washington Commanders. I promise you I'll work tirelessly to build this franchise. This is one of the cornerstone franchises in the NFL. I cannot be more thrilled to be here. So this is a guy that clearly wanted to be here. He's all in. He turned down interviews last year. Has a good relationship with Bob Myers. Talked about that. A relationship now with Josh Harris. Rick Spillman. Had a good talk with those guys, and he really wanted to be here. So we are a destination, man. The second pick of the draft. So much cap space. This is an attractive destination. So you get the top guy, the top GM candidate who wanted to be here, and he says he's all in. Josh Harris says about Adam Peters, and Adam, I think we have the right leader. He's a winner. He's made an immediate impact everywhere he's been. Together, we are committed to restoring this team to the highest level. So, yeah, Adam Peters won a Super Bowl with the Patriots, the Broncos, made it to the Super Bowl with the Niners. Everywhere he has gone, he has won and has playoff success. On the roster, he said, Peter said there are some cornerstone pieces, but there's a lot of work to do. So that was a professional answer. Of course, he's not going to come out in here and be like, oh, this roster's awful. Ron Rivera was terrible with constructing the roster. He was terrible with drafting commanders, worrying about positional flex, and overdrafting guys and stuff like that. Not ever figuring out the quarterback position. So he's not going to come out here and say that. Adam Peters on the number 2 pick. He said it's a great opportunity, but we still have to hire a head coach. And we're going to do that full process collaboratively. We're far from making a decision on that, but really looking forward to diving into that process. So that's great, collabing, with the head coach, making a decision. And he's not taking any steps ahead of himself. Like he said, get the head coach first. I love how he said build through the draft and supplement through free agency. Building through the draft is going to be so important. You look at his late hits. Deebo Samuel was a second-round pick. Brandon Ayuk was a first-round pick. But the later hits like Elijah Mitchell, George Kittle was a later-round pick. Hungafulu, the safety, was a later-round pick. So they have some, and then look at all their picks anyway through the draft. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle. They traded for Trent Williams. That was a trade, but they have so many good. Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw. Just look at that roster top to bottom. They have so many good draft picks on that roster right now. They built it and they supplemented through the draft. I mean, they supplemented through free agent. He didn't say anything about trades, but that's the part of the supplemental process. They made moves to get Trent Williams. They made moves to get Christian McCaffrey. The majority, and Brock Purdy, a 7th-round pick, who's an MVP candidate. So they really built their roster through the draft when you look at it top to bottom. I like the philosophy. So we're looking for the best leader for this team. We have set criteria that we're aligned in that vision. It's not going to be in a box. It's not going to be offense. It's not going to be defense. It's going to be the best leader. So, like I said, my preference is offense. Offensive-minded guy, Ben Johnson. You saw how well he did in the playoffs this weekend. Bobby Slowick did a good job this weekend. So those are my top 2 candidates. Mike McDonald, we'll see how he does on Saturday, but he had a heck of a season. So they're not going to keep it in a box. They just want a good leader as well. And he probably does have a preference, but he's not going to say that out loud to the media. And the 2 picks on Prize Picks did hit. I think it was Puka Nacua over on his receiving yards and Armon Ross St. Brown on his receiving yards. Those 2 picks on Prize Picks that I gave out, those hit. So hope you guys made some money and tailed those picks. Promo code REAL at Oliver, 100% deposit match up for first-time users. Get up to $100 for your first-time users. 100% deposit match on Prize Picks. Let's see here. What else he said? Yeah, he said you can't put timetables on it, but what I can tell you is you're going to see competitors and a physical presence on the field. Whether the results come right away, you'll be proud of what you see on the field. Like I said, with the Niners, you see how they bullied Dallas in the playoffs. They bully teams. Trent Williams, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey. That running game, they just bully teams. Elijah Mitchell, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle. They bully teams, and they're guys. They block. Their receivers are not scared to block. Like Jawan Jennings, he blocks. Deebo Samuel, he blocks. Those guys, they're a very physical team. Defensively, Nick Bosa, they drafted him too. Very physical. Fred Warner. He also said, this is not a total rebuild. There are a ton of wonderful people here that just need leadership. I don't believe that. I think that's just, him saying the right things. there's a lot of things that need to change for sure. Josh Harris said Adam Peters has done plenty of research on Washington before they met to discuss the job. That dude is thorough. Let's see here. If there's anything else that I did not cover here. He said this is one of the cornerstone franchises in the NFL. I already said about that. Harris did a good job. I think that's really it. He said Adam Peters on how long it would take to turn things around based on a couple lean years to start his time in San Fran. Those were dark days, but the thing I can tell you is right away with the 49ers, maybe the results didn't show, but you can see it on the field. The fans could feel it. You're going to see great competitors. You're going to see a physical team. It's going to happen right away. I talked about that already. He also said analytics and research and development will be involved to evaluate the quarterback position. So analytics, you already got Eugene Shin there. So that's some things that I see for sure. What else here? That's really it, man. That's really it. It was a quick presser. It was probably about 10 to 15 minutes, not too long. They got in and out. Not going to give you too much. Keeping stuff close to the vest. Very professional. And like I said, he's not gonna tell you too much what you want to hear, honestly. And he was very professional. I like that a lot. Very, very, very professional about his philosophy on getting a coach, and also the roster and stuff like that, and the quarterback position. So, like I said, he believes we have a couple cornerstone pieces on the roster, which I think so too. Not many, but we have a few. So, all right, you guys know what you guys think. Health Commanders, Adam Peters. It's a new day, man. I'm going to be making a couple videos this week for sure. Ben Johnson's interview is on Friday. It's a virtual interview. Dan Quinn's virtual interview is on Thursday as well. You guys let me know what you guys think about that. Health Commanders. Peace.